Guys, check out the killer record cases and stereo furniture at sidetrackedworkshop.com. Get your vinyl out of the crate and display your records in style. Save 15% with discount code TVG at checkout. That's sidetrackedworkshop.com.
And now, on with the show. Welcome to The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. Here's your host, the biggest record nerd of them all, Nate Goyer.
Well, hey everyone, it's Nate. Welcome to episode 453 of The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for fans and collectors of vinyl records. And hey people, got another big one for you this week. We are joined by guitarist and music gear mega collector Joe Bonamassa, who's going to talk to us all about his new record label, collecting music gear, his appreciation, his approach to the art of vinyl records, his new LP live at the Hollywood Bowl on Journeyman Records, and lots more. The record is now out. You could dial it up on streaming, or you can order the vinyl at jbonamassa.com. There's lots of videos. You can go over to YouTube and see some of the performances live at the Hollywood Bowl with the full orchestra. Pretty cool stuff. That's Joe Bonamassa live at the Hollywood Bowl on Journeyman Records. Now, for those of you who are new to the Vinyl Guide podcast, welcome to the show. We've got hundreds of episodes you can enjoy for free, talking to legends about records, rare recordings, and collecting. For example, Mr. Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top joined us for episode 293, talking guitars, records, touring with Jimi Hendrix, and lots more. That's episode 293 of the Vinyl Guide. We recently discussed the Miles Davis archive. What's in there? The records, the recordings, all sorts of fascinating stuff. We talked about it with the curator and manager, Vince Wilburn Jr. That's episode 452 of the Vinyl Guide. Mr. John Densmore of the Mighty Doors joined us episode 433. Music nerd royalty and YouTube legend Rick Beato joined us episode 430. Of course, production and engineering legend Mr. Eddie Kramer talks about working with Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, The Who, and more, episode 429. We even got to tour the Punk Rock Museum in Las Vegas with Fat Mike of NoFX, episode 428, and literally hundreds more episodes. Listen for free anytime. Just follow the Vinyl Guide in your podcast app and enjoy all those interviews I mentioned and hundreds more. And so with that, let's head over to Nerdville and discuss recording, records, and collecting with Mr. Joe Bonamassa. All right, well, this week on the Vinyl Guide, we are welcoming Mr. Joe Bonamassa, who's celebrating a lot of different things. We'll make our way through the list here. Joe, first off, you've got this new label that you put together for different artists, including yourself, Journeyman Records. Is that right? Are we okay to blow the lid on this one?
Oh yeah, it's been around for over a year. Here's the thing: is Journeyman is set up for two artists right now. We're going to scale it. Is taking what we've been doing for the last 17 years and applying it to other artists that we feel deserve the opportunity, and super talented people that are hiding in plain sight, and that may not have the machine of the music business behind them, and that was our story almost 20 years ago. It's like, it's like in 2004, 2005, we started promoting our own shows because nobody would take a chance in promoting us. And, and we slowly over the course of, at that point, 3 years between 2004 and 2007, slowly integrated our business into everything's under one roof. That's the merchandise. That's the record company. That's the concerts, the marketing, all of the above. And once we got there, we saw the proof of concept. And Journeyman is designed to take that concept and apply it to other acts. In this case, Joanne Shaw Taylor, who's been my friend for over 20 years, and Robert John and the Wreck, who are really hardworking. I call them kids because I just turned 47, but really hardworking lads from Southern California that when they get in front of an audience, people root for them. And that's a skill set you can't teach. They root for you. Same thing with Joanne. They root for you. They want to see you succeed. They want to buy your product. They want to buy your T-shirt. They want to see you do well. And and those are the outliers that we look for in artists when we get involved with them. It's we're not a label that, we're not miracle workers. If you don't believe in yourself, then how is it, how am I supposed to believe in you? These are the ones that they believe in themselves, but they're not serviced through the normal terrestrial radio and corporate music business that is literally, as the crow flies, 3 miles from my house.
So you seem to be behind a lot of different passion projects. You've got some charities. You're a guy who gives back quite a bit. This record label or entertainment company, it's a very different motion than being an artist. Is this something you like doing, getting involved in like careers and mentoring others? Is that something you like to do?
I always have. I always tell people that my phone is always on, and you can always text me or call me. Probably better to text because I sometimes don't answer I don't want to spend the whole day on the damn phone. But the reality is there are so many hardworking, talented people out there that deserve a shot in the music business, but just don't know how to to scale it.
Mm-hmm.
We know how to scale it. We know we've seen it go from 100 seats to Red Rocks. We've seen it go from, selling records out of the back of our car, to the back of our van, to selling 9 million records worldwide. You know what I mean? We know how to scale it, and it's not a hit song on the radio. It's just a slow march forward, and brand building, very old-fashioned brand building. And now, with social media and the internet, and being able to find fans worldwide, where before you'd have to take out ads on the in magazines and show the industry that you're behind an artist. Now you can, for free, pinpoint that marketing to actual fans that are going to buy the records. I never understood spending thousands of dollars on full page ads in industry only magazines to advertise to people that get the records for free. Never understood that. You know what I mean? It's like, well, you have to be a label to subscribe to, well, back in the day, that was R&R magazine, the Album Network. Remember that? Which I believe was Robert Kardashian, of all people, founded those magazines before he got pulled out of retirement. We won't talk about that. I never understood that, because you really want to be a people's champion. You don't want to be someone who's an industry darling, but then can't sell 200 tickets in Des Moines, Iowa. That is an artist that you get invited to all the cool parties and the red carpets, but when it comes down to boots on the ground and people in the seats, you're struggling. I'd rather put people in the seats and not get invited to anything. Just leave me alone.
Look, you know how to pave your way, especially in this segment of the industry. And so bringing along artists, I think, is a very natural thing to do. But again, it's work in a different way, right? It's not playing the guitar. It's not writing music. It's not, working with the band necessarily, but a lot of it can be behind a desk or in front of a spreadsheet. Do you get involved in much of that, or is that mainly your business partner or your manager that's involved?
Well, you have to be both the musician and the business, and it's, we have a staff of over 20 people that work in South Florida. And now it's, I think, almost 25 or 26 with Journeyman. There's 4 full-time people that work outside of the Joe Bonamassa umbrella, on Robert John and Joanne Shaw Taylor. And, but for years and years and years, like, we had a staff, full office staff, that all they did was, there was people in charge of sales, people in charge of the record company, people in charge of merchandise and creative development, and all of the apparatus and machine of a label, only it was singular focus. It was one artist. And it's everything. When you promote your own shows, you have people that help that are in charge of buying ads. And when you or getting avails or negotiating rent caps when people come back and want to charge you way too much because they think you're, like when you first go in there, they think you're just some, idiot that's going to do it once. And then next thing you know, we have 20-year relationships with these venues, and we're no different than Live Nation or AEG or Bill Silva, whoever promotes a show. And that's, once you start, you have to kind of force your way into it. And once you get established, then it becomes a lot easier, and they know you're legit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I suppose even bringing up some of these artists right now, you say, the office, the focus is on one artist. Now you're bringing others up there. It will also eventually perhaps reduce the pressure on you to constantly be out there or to be doing things to keep a staff of 20 plus people going. You could then have a whole stable of artists that allow you perhaps a little bit more artistic, creative freedom.
I'm not doing that. I'm not doing the journeyman thing for the money or for my 401k. It's artists that I believe in, that I want to see succeed. Mm-hmm. And I've done this long enough, and I know when I know when the expiration date is, and for me it's maybe 13 years before I slow it down and do 10 shows a year and then slowly fade off into the sunset. That's I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it because I believe in these people, and I do it because I feel that there's a playbook that we've developed over the last 17 years that will apply to other artists other than me. I mean, I tell everybody, man, if I can do it, anybody can. You just got to work hard, and you got to commit, and you got to want it. If you want it, you can grab it. And there's no pre-existing conditions. There's no I don't work on Sundays. Yes, you do. You do now. And it's like, well, I was supposed to go to my friend's birthday party, but so I'm going to have to cancel the interview at the Grammy Foundation. No, you're not. You're going to send a card and you're going to go do the interview. You know what I mean? Like you have to make those compromises, and nothing is sacred, and because opportunities come up all the time. And if they're good opportunities, then you take them. I honestly, you don't want to just be known as going to an opening of a box, but you also want to be like, hey, listen, I'm pragmatic about this, and this is going to move the needle. So you have to wade through a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anyone will ever accuse you of not working hard, Joe.
Yeah. But I also don't go to an opening of a box. I don't go to anything. I just leave me alone.
Right. Yeah. So, you're a sound guy. You've got a lot of vintage gear. Obviously, you're a bit of a connoisseur of audio. Do you have a record collection? Do you listen to music on vinyl?
I do listen to music on vinyl. I think it's the only real vehicle in this house here in Laurel Canyon that I have to listen to music is vinyl. I don't have a CD player up here anymore. And it's vinyl. There's a reason why people are going back to vinyl, is because the younger generation doesn't know what it's like to hear music in order in which the artist intended it. We are so programmed in the last 20, 25 years for it just to be a random grouping of songs by multiple artists on a playlist. And to the point where I remember when iTunes first launched, and I'm sitting there going, this record's in the wrong order. This isn't the right sequence. And when you drop the needle on a vinyl, on a good sound system, now you don't have to have the full rig with the directional cables and a $30,000 pair of speakers. You can go to any secondhand shop and get a nice old power amp, a preamp, and a couple of speakers, and for less than $1,500 adjusted for inflation now, you can get yourself a really great listening experience that will take you back to the time where people listened to music as an event. When people would line up outside of a record store because Peter Frampton's new album was coming out, or the Allman Brothers were releasing live at the Fillmore. It was an event, and then they couldn't wait to get it back home, slap it on their turntable and listen to these things in their entirety. And that's why I believe vinyl has become so popular now. In music is because of that, and it's for those who weren't there in the first go around. It's a taste of nostalgia that they only heard about through their parents or anybody up to Gen X.
Yeah, you brought up something that maybe isn't talked about as much, is the sequence and the sculpting of the listening experience that an artist would have. The artist wanted these songs in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not too dissimilar from how an artist like yourself would want to construct a live show. You have the intros, the peaks, the valleys. You manage people's emotions through that period of time. And a vinyl record, it does that as well.
Yeah, and you want to hit them hard on the first song and make them want to flip it over on the last song on side A. I mean, there's no different. It's like the sequence of a play. It's peaks and valleys and arcs and I can take the same 15 songs that I play every night and put them in order in which that 2 hours seems really slow. I can also put them in order in which they fly by. And people go, I can't believe he's already done. It's like, well, no, it's been 2 hours, and that the art of the sequence is something that is really, really important, but has kind of been cast aside. And, that's why I think vinyl is important these days. Now, the hipsters that are saying, man, cassettes are coming back. Stop it. I please stop it. You think I'm going to bring my Walkman and drag that out of retirement? Stop it. Cassettes were shitty back in the 80s. Okay. The machine would eat the tape. Okay. It wasn't like a vinyl or even a 16-bit CD player. I would take that over a cassette. Cassette was just something you throw in your car while you were in traffic, And then, oh my God, I got this new car. I got a CD player. And then now, oh my God, I don't even have a CD player and I got to stream it off my phone. Vinyl still has an important part of the music business. Does it replace CD sales? Absolutely not. But has it helped artists connect with fans and do cool things to get them to buy physical product? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've clearly got the collector gene with your gear, certainly, and I imagine other things as well. Do you have a record collection? Are you a bit of a record nerd in the same way?
I have enough to get in trouble. Probably have 200 or 300 records. Not like some of the members of my band who have thousands of records, and it's rare first pressings. I don't get involved in that. I have too much stuff with the guitars and amps, and so storage is a big problem. Space is a big problem. And, I'm more of a guitar and amp collector than I am a vinyl collector. I mean, it's like, if I got to reference a song, if I'm producing a record in the studio, I'm as guilty as the next guy. Am I going home and pulling the vinyl out? No, I'm going to go on Spotify or Apple Music and be like, okay, this is what this, if we're covering a song, and be like, I think this is the chords, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So there is a convenience factor to having it all, act, on your iPhone or Android. But if you want to just sit down, relax for 2 hours and just forget the problems, throw your phone over the cliff and just focus on just music, there's nothing better than just dropping the needle on side A of BB King live at the Regal, and it takes you on a journey.
In the blues area, there's a lot of collectible 78s, highly rare 78s. Is that anything that's on your radar at all?
No, I know people that have, that have a network of collectors and people who collect that kind of early Columbia stuff and OK records and all those regional blues labels that were recording, Son House and Robert Johnson and Blind Boy Fuller and all, the problem is I have an addictive personality, and I've curtailed that urge, because I know if I start with 178, I'm going to have 50 78s, and you start going down the rabbit hole, and then honestly, the greatest record collection I've ever seen in my life was in Montreux, and the late great Claude Nobbs, who's founder of the Montreux Jazz Festival, invited us up, my producer and I, to his chalet.
Mm-hmm.
And I walk in, and there's Quincy Jones, and you're like, wow, how my life has changed from growing up in Utica, New York. And he took me through the record collection. I mean, you're talking about the rarest of the rare, and the most coveted jazz and blues and stuff. And he was passionate about it, but he started collecting before there was a marketplace. He was just a fan, and just collecting all of this stuff. And he was also very, very passionate, almost like an Alan Lomax kind of personality, where he wanted to preserve the music, because a lot of times he was holding on to one of the two known copies of these albums that were direct to disc, and sold regionally, not nationally. They were sold in Memphis or Mississippi or Texas. It's important to do that. It's important to be a custodian of this music, because you can't rely on corporate and the corporate record companies to really care about that. They do some of it. Sony Legacy does a good job, and Universal, they have a legacy program, and they do a good job. But there's a lot of stuff that's fallen through the cracks, and the collectors of vinyl, especially very rare blues and jazz, are holding history. They're holding a direct link to our past and our musical legacy.
I would imagine there's still a lot of material that hasn't made its way to the digital format. It was put 100%. Out on record, and that's where it stays. So you probably were able to hear a lot of things you never thought you'd be able to hear in that record collection.
Well, I have a hard time finding stuff that I have in my collection of CDs, and a hobbyist level collection of vinyl on an iTunes. You're like, well, where's this Rory Gallagher record? What's like, why is the John Mayall collection now a compilation? Where's the Hard Road? Where's the Beano record? Where's the one with Mick Taylor? There was, why is a song missing from, Blues from Laurel Canyon? It's like and that's just John Mayall. You know what I mean? And it's like, people don't know the difference, and they just assume that that's what it was. And so it's important. And vinyl collecting is great, because it doesn't have to be super expensive. If you could find good vinyl, for under $20 that is just for your listening pleasure, and that's what it really is supposed to be. I know the people that go, well, it's got a ring on the cover. It's it's this, it's that. Well, that's because it's the difference between collecting, investment grade guitars and ones that have been beat up and refretted. It's the same thing. It's, are you going to play the guitar, or are you going to look at the guitar? And there's pros and cons to both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're going to get some that are a little bit beat up, but sometimes that's part of that's the life of it. There's the one guy who collects white albums, nothing but white albums. I don't know if you've seen that, Joe, but He collects nothing but white albums. What's interesting is all the people, how they responded to that white, how they drew on it, how they wrote their names, or doodled about the Beatles or whatever. And I imagine that would be the same as picking up old Les Paul, 60s Les Paul, and it's got marks all over it and buckle rash. Well, yeah. That's part of the life of that guitar, and it should be kind of revered. It's not a detractor necessarily.
No, and you're also, in terms of a guitar, you're looking at something that's been played for 70 plus years, or 65, 70 years, I'm talking about electric guitars, and you're going, my God, how many songs and what kind of songs have been played on this? And it's like you're a custodian of history, not just a collector because it's an investment. I don't look at any of my collection as an investment. I look at as I'm a custodian of history, and I want to make sure that when I'm done with it, it goes to the next person in the same condition as which I found.
So, what do you think will have you've amassed a quite a sizable collection of gear.
Yeah.
You seem to have a similar issue that a lot of us record collectors have. Is like at some point, we're moving on to the next plane of existence. What's going to happen to your gear? Do you have any thoughts or ideas of how it should be managed afterward? Hey there, all you record nerds. I want to tell you about BagsUnlimited.com. BagsUnlimited.com has a huge selection of vinyl record supplies. Whether you collect LPs, 7-inch singles, 78 shellacs, or anything in between, BagsUnlimited.com will sort you out. From polyline sleeves to cardboard record mailers to 7-inch storage boxes and archive quality record sleeves, protect your records of any size and shape at BagsUnlimited.com. Whether you have a small personal record collection or you're running a massive record shop, you can grab a small supply or even buy in bulk at BagsUnlimited.com. And they've got some really incredible, unique stuff. BagsUnlimited.com even has special size sleeves made especially to protect your box sets, storage boxes and sleeves for cassette tapes, protective supplies for reel-to-reel, and yes, even 8-tracks. Just go to BagsUnlimited.com, click on audio supplies, and prepare to be impressed by all the options they have. That's BagsUnlimited.com.
Yeah.
You seem to have a similar issue that a lot of us record collectors have. Is like at some point, we're moving on to the next plane of existence. What's going to happen to your gear? Do you have any thoughts or ideas of how it should be managed afterward?
I mean, it's never going to all be together. I know a lot of great collections that got broken up. I don't know any of them have switched hands in totality.
Right.
And that's fine by me, and you just want to know that wherever it's going to go, it's either going to be used or it's going to be appreciated or both. And when you're dead and gone, not to sound cynical, do you really care?
Well, the thing
I did my job. If you want to, kick this amp over and recreate the Chuck Berry scene of Back to the Future, I don't care. It's yours to kick over.
Well, the thing that I'm trying to do is not leave my family a problem. Right.
Right.
I've selected a handful of things that I think best represent me, and the rest could go to the highest bidder or whatever to support the family after I'm gone. But part of having a collection is that responsibility you have, the stewardship of it. So, I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are about where it goes, or not as a whole, but I mean, do you have any plans for it?
I do have plans, and it's to be done slowly, not all at once. It's to be done slowly. It's also out of respect to other collectors, because when you start getting 100 and something of one thing, showing up on the market tends to deflate the market. It's one of those things. I've had this conversation at among social situations where people ask me about collecting and be like, how many, the narratives, how many guitars you have? I said, I have around 650. And they're like, wow, how many amps do you have? I go, about the same, about 650. And they're all generally mint condition, the highest level of preservation that I can find. And there's always a contrarian and that comes in and goes, why do you need that many? I said, if you have to ask me that, then you have no idea what being a collector is. A collector is someone who gets into a tranche of collecting that is passionate and deliberate about its preservation. And it's not about who has more, because any big collector will say this, that isn't arrogant and has trying to flex on Instagram, is any big collector will say this: no matter how much you think you have and how good of your stuff that you think it is, someone always has a better version of that record or that better example of that guitar. And it's not about flexing. It's about, listen, I'm preserving this because I'm passionate about it. And if in 50 years nobody wants it, then fine, it'll be in the pawn shops again, and then somebody will, figure it out. But I don't see that happening, because I think people still, American music and American guitars and amps tend to be timeless. And I think there's always going to be someone that's going to be involved in preserving that, because, I look at a Fender amp built in 1955, and I said every screw, every tube, capacitor, socket, speaker, baffle board, lacquer covering, tweed lacquer covering, everything was produced somewhere in this general area of Southern California. And we can't say that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't say that about anything anymore.
You can't say that about anything. You can't say that about the most American. I bet you there's some Chinese screws on a Harley Davidson, and I could tell you that for free. You know what I mean? It's like, why is this gas tank made in China? Well, it's cheaper. It's like, but 70 years ago or 65 years ago, we built everything here, and I find it to be intriguing, and it's the last of the great manufacturing and ingenuity that this country has produced.
All right, let's say at one point, you got a massive collection. Managing it is probably takes its own little team to keep things,
Yes.
Change out capacitors on all these old, or actually, do you do that? If an amp is from the 50s, some of those parts may no longer work.
It depends if I have intentions of using it. Like, there are some things, the majority of my collection are so preserved, especially on the amp side, they look like they were made yesterday. I also have many amps, in Nashville, and I have a cache here in Los Angeles, of ones that I can throw in the back of my car and not worry about scratching. So those are the ones that get the new caps and that are maintained to the highest level. As far as if you come up to my house, which is a functioning museum, you're like, oh my God, that tweed 310 tweed Fender Bandmaster looks like it was made yesterday. I'm like, great. Well, how does it sound? I go, it says mint. I go, it probably doesn't work. It's like, for you to get, it hasn't been turned on in 45 years. The thing is, to get everything up and running at a high level, it becomes counterintuitive, because if you don't have any intent of amplifying guitar with it, I'm just preserving these things for someone else. Now, if they decide that it's worth, beating up and I always say it's only mint once. And if you have the luxury of finding another example that you can take out and beat up, and great, do that. Don't beat up the mint stuff, because it's only mint once, and there's a finite amount of it that has survived. The longer we go into this thing, the rarer it becomes to find stuff that isn't been like really abused and used.
Mm-hmm. So, Joe, let's say at one point your house is on fire. You have to grab 3 guitars. Which ones are they?
I'm gonna grab the picture of my great grandfather playing trumpet with the Mickey Kaleo Orchestra in 1920. I'm gonna grab his trumpet. The rest of it, I don't give a shit.
Okay.
I don't care. I because when
you still got room for 2 guitars, by the way.
And I have a drill. I can grab 6 under. I can carry 3 in each hand. Here's the thing. It's like, it's the same logic as like, if you're stranded on a desert island, which guitar are you going to bring? It's like, if I'm stranded on a desert island, I got bigger problems than grabbing a guitar and amp and going, like, how am I gonna do the whittlies while I'm trying to contact the outside world? Generally, fires, like if your house is on fire, you generally have a very short amount of time to save yourself, and human life is worth more than any object.
Sure, Joe, but I'm not sure the rules of which we're playing here. Just what are the top 3 kind of precious guitars, like the ones that you're like, oh my God, this is like my go-to, or something incredibly special memory with it?
Well, it depends. I mean, do you grab the Flying V's, or do you grab the Sunburst Les Pauls, or do you grab the Mary Kay Strat? Do you grab the unicorns. I've hundreds of guitars just here in this location that would be anybody's top collectible. I mean, it's so hard to choose. And again, if the canyon's on fire, I got bigger problems than that. And I got 2 minutes. Like I don't have a semi truck parked in my front yard.
Okay. All right. We'll move on from that one then. Look, you've collaborated with so many musicians. Who's left on that bucket list you'd like to play with? Hey there, I gotta tell you about the Groove Washer. Not because I have to, but because I want to. The Groove Washer is the best record cleaner you can get. And if you have a vinyl collection, you need to keep it clean. Dirt and dust lead to groove wear, which affects the sound and value of your record collection. Use the Groove Washer to clean before each play, and your ears and future pocketbook will thank you. Ask for the Groove Washer by name at your local record store, or go direct to groovewasher.com and use promo code VinylGuide10 at checkout. Groove Washer is a great holiday gift. Why not send one to a friend? groovewasher.com, discount code VinylGuide10. Do it now. Hey there, audiophiles. If you're seeking stylish furniture to showcase your stereo and record collection, well, look no further than SidetrackedWorkshop.com. Sidetracked Workshop designs extraordinarily elegant record cabinets and consoles that add sophistication and panache to your music hobby. Handcrafted in the good old USA in the vinyl-loving city of Portland, Oregon, Sidetracked Workshop's designs are a music lover's dream. Made with real walnut veneered wood and brass accents, these gorgeous designs add class and taste to the record room and ship fully assembled and ready to enjoy. Just check out the designs for yourself at SidetrackedWorkshop.com. Look, you spend thousands of dollars on records. Don't keep them in a crate, and don't risk your records on those feeble wooden pegs from IKEA. Your music deserves the dignity of Sidetracked Workshop. That's SidetrackedWorkshop.com. Elegant solutions for the vinyl lifestyle. You've collaborated with so many musicians. Who's left on that bucket list you'd like to play with?
I've played with just about everyone. I think that the thing I'm most proud of, I play with just about everyone I could think of at this point. All my heroes. Is obviously I played with B.B. King, I played with Buddy Guy, I played with John Lee Hooker, I played with Albert Collins, I played with James Cotton. The last I shook Willie Dixon's hand. Didn't play with him, but I shook Willie Dixon's hand before he died. I never met Albert King. Wish I did, but he died when I was in 8th grade, and we never crossed paths, even though I was active playing at the time. The thing I'm most proud of is that I've played with every member of Cream individually, not all together. So I've played with Eric Clapton. I played with Ginger Baker. I've played with Jack Bruce, and I always say that's probably the coolest thing I've ever been involved with, because Cream was such a major, groundbreaking influence on my music, and to have the opportunity to play with two of the late members of Cream, it was really special. And the last guy I played with of the band was Ginger Baker. And he was as advertised. I watched the movie. I knew what I was going to. He was as advertised. He was consistent with the movie.
On brand.
He was on brand. And I did it. And I'm happy for it. And I wouldn't trade any of it. It's so many great musicians that have influenced me. I wish I would have met Rory Gallagher. I never met Rory Gallagher, but it's like those are the people that really, changed my life. I was a month away from meeting Stevie Ray Vaughan, and he tragically died in August. I was supposed to play with him at Jones Beach in September of 1990. He died in August. And Danny Gatton was a huge, mentor of mine, and I'm glad I got to play with him before he died. And so when I look back at all these people, I've pretty much, ticked all my boxes, you know?
Uh, Blues music is so emotive. Do you find yourself playing better on nights when you're in a this particular mood, melancholic or something? I mean, how do you get yourself in the mood to put on a show?
Oh, being like, I'm an entertainer. So I know I have to go out there and I have to tick the boxes. And I know I have to hit the marks and I front it. And it's a show. It's not like, well, what do I feel like playing now? I mean, I don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a show. And the best nights are the ones that you kind of, you're in this state of in between, like being in the moment and being kind of outside of your body. And those are the ones that you play, you're relaxed, but it's vital. And those are the ones you wish you could bottle. The ones that you're hyper conscious of, like a mistake or just your situation, those are not your best nights. The ones that you're kind of zoned out, those are not your best nights. It's the ones that you're vital, you're in control of everything, the audience is with you, but you're kind of outside of your body, and you're able to time compress, and you hear things in longer stretches of time than they're actually going by to the audience. And those are the ones that really, to me, are the best nights. And it's not putting myself in a mood. I don't have any music in the backstage that I warm up to or any of that kind of stuff that puts me in the mood.
No routines or superstitions or anything you do?
I suit up at 7:30. I never sit down. And right before I suit up, I go look at the crowd. Now at 7:30 for an 8 o'clock show, my audience knows that I go on fastidiously at 8 o'clock, and there's maybe 40% of the crowd inside the theater. And I just take a look, and it's just a superstitious look. I go back to my dressing room, I suit up, I never sit down, and I chat with my tour manager or whoever's around, and we could be discussing collective bargaining agreements of the 1960s about 3 minutes before the intro, and it doesn't matter, because as soon as I hear the intro and I put the sunglasses on, I switch characters. I'm a different person, and I just go into, I have to be the guy. And then at 10:10, when the show's over, I take the suit off, I put him away, and we'll see you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. That's it. That's my routine.
So for the live at the Hollywood Bowl, that was your first time at the Hollywood Bowl? A lot of history there, yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's, the fact that it's so close to where I live, and it meant so much.
You can take the bus.
You don't want to do that. You want to get there early. Finally, after being caught in that Highland traffic so many times for bowl shows, I was the one causing it. I got some satisfaction out of that. But no, it was great, to have that orchestra behind you. And it took a lot of concentration. It took a lot of effort. It took a lot of work to get there. Not just metaphorically, starting at the Mint, playing the 5 people, and then packing the Hollywood Bowl. That was one side of it, but the actual work that it took to prepare the band to be a guest with the orchestra. The orchestra was not a guest with us. We were a guest with the orchestra, because they're as fearless as they are brilliant, because they will drive off the cliff. If you get off the bars, they're going to drive off the cliff, and they're going to be like, hey, listen, we read the charts down, and it's no fault of their own. So you have to be on it, and you have to listen to them. It was a real testament to listening skills and situational awareness, especially on stage.
That's interesting, because I guess if you're in a 5-piece band or whatever, you can ebb and flow and communicate with just a few other guys on stage to kind of manage any mistakes or any changes. But if you've got a 40-person orchestra behind you, I guess you don't have that sort of freedom.
I play improvised music for a living, and we travel with an 8-piece band, and then this summer we're going to travel with a 12-piece band and or 11-piece band, 12 including me, and I can steer that like a Ferrari, because it's blues. And if I feel like I want to take a couple extra bars, the guys playing the horns will be like, okay, section 2, repeat. When you have a 40-piece orchestra, that's not happening. It's not happening. And you have timpanis, you have brass, you have strings, you have everything, all the above. They're not listening. They're not listening to like, oh, I think Joe's in a mood to play an extra chorus. They don't know me. You know, my band knows me. They know if I'm going to go an extra, and then I see them looking around, and I'm like, oh, sorry, but that's easy to pivot. With the orchestra, you are pinned. You are absolutely pinned to that chart, and I don't read music, so my hat's off to Lamar Carter, our drummer, who really was so critical for me. He would hit little splash cymbals and little notes about, you know, little cues about 2 to 4 bars before a section would change, that if they weren't there, this guy would have gotten off the chart, you know?
Oh man. Well, look, the performance is phenomenal. And I want to make sure to direct people over to Joe Bonamassa live at the Hollywood Bowl with an orchestra. Again, there's a double vinyl set there. It's a beautiful blue vinyl variant. jbonamassa.com. There's several other albums up there from Joe's that you want to take a look at. There's a new Black Country Communion LP you could pre-order. And also check out the releases on Journeyman Records. You got Joanne Shaw Taylor, Heavy Soul. That's out June 7th. Of course, the Hollywood Bowl album is going to be out mid-June, around the 21st. And then Robert John and the Wreck, Red Moon Rising, releasing at the end of June. All available on vinyl, shop.jbonamassa.com. Joe, thank you so much for coming on the show, mate. And we hope to have you back at some point. Talk more records and collecting crap.
It's a great discussion, man. Collecting and collectors are a unique breed in which you hire the most eccentric Hollywood screenwriters to write a movie about guitar collectors, vinyl collectors, car collectors, any kind of collectors, and they could not, even with their twisted minds, come up with the eccentric characters that live within our world.
Very well said, Joe. I may steal that quote.
Thanks, man. Cheers. Bye.
Oh, man, that went far too quick. Joe's interview schedule's pretty tight these days, but we're going to try to get him on for an extended interview later in the year. In the meantime, Joe Bonamassa live at the Hollywood Bowl, out now on Journeyman Records. Dial it up on streaming to enjoy, or just order the vinyl at jbonamassa.com. And that's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Thank you so much for tuning in. Huge thanks to those of you who are sharing these episodes on social media, putting them on Facebook, tweeting them out on Twitter, putting them in the Facebook groups or the Reddit forums. That is hugely appreciated. And those of you who are leaving us positive reviews, that kiss is for you. We'll be back shortly with a brand new episode. So until we talk next time, get out there and buy some records, people. Cheers.